Hi, I'm Matt from HockeyReviews.ca, and this is the true Catalyst 9X hockey glove snapshot review. We have the old XC9. This is a pro stock glove, but this was one of the worst gloves I've ever touched in terms of just how it felt and everything. True is really bad with gloves. They've been getting better. The next gen XC9, which I did a review up here, was pretty good. So we'll see how the Catalyst 9X ends up. These have been used in the NHL quite a bit now. Most guys in true gloves in the NHL are wearing the Catalyst 9X. So maybe that kind of hints at something. But before that, if you are buying any hockey equipment and live in the United States, please check out the link in the description to Pure Hockey. Clicking that link, making a purchase, gives me a kickback, helps support the channel so I can do reviews and do real reviews. Otherwise, if you want to support the channel, check out the link in the description to Patreon, Buy Me a Coffee. Everything that goes through there comes right back into the channel so I can keep making more content and doing more videos. Now, like I said, the XC9 was absolutely terrible. So I'm going to go over some things on here which made it really terrible. This one isn't the retail one. This is a pro stock one, so it has some specs on it that are actually really nice, like the Nash fingertips, but the spandex gussets right there. The palm on this is also nicer than the retail one. It doesn't have that stupid zipper, and the zipper was a huge problem with these gloves just because they felt so disconnected and they honestly felt awful, and the zipper broke a lot. Basically, whenever you add like a zipper, it pushes the backhand padding off the glove, so then the glove feels sloppy to me, and honestly, it wasn't a nice glove. The other problem about this, you can't really stretch the fingers straight. You can see how they're always bent. It's like the foams were like too tightly sewn together, which is usually the opposite problem with gloves. They're usually too far apart, which adds to gaps in protection. These are too far or too close together, as you can see, and the pinkies are real evident of this. The retail ones of these I saw, the fingers would like split out like here. And when I did a video on that, I showed that off too because the quality was terrible. 3-piece fingers are actually a good touch though, and the foam package of this was nuts. Softer foam here, insanely hard foam here, like almost a plastic feeling hard foam here, and then a plastic insert. So like really insane protection package on these, really interesting in that sense. The other thing that was kind of awful with these, the thumb isn't super flexible, so it's not great, but it's not a huge issue. The other thing though was how many breaks there are. There's just way too many breaks. So I'm a huge fan of hand brakes, and a lot of companies are taking these away to cheapen out. True went the other way with these, and it was just way too much. Like you can merge like a bunch of these together. This is useless. That doesn't need to be there. That's useless. That's useless. Like these don't need. These could be one piece together, and like it's just too much. Too much is going on here. So we'll see what True has done with the Catalyst 9X. Now there was a second gen XC9, but no one really in the NHL or any pros really ever wore it. They're all just wearing this. So they went from this to basically this. Now the graphics of it and the look was like pretty busy, and it was kind of a little, had me questioning things. So the finger graphic here reminded me of like what the 2S Pro was doing. And it just, same with the cuff, as you can see, kind of a lot of similarities there, but that doesn't really matter. Graphics aren't important on gloves, especially for like the pros and everything, right? Because you end up just putting the team graphic on it anyways. With that said, this glove, it's good. It's really good. There's going to be a few complaints which I'll talk about, but we'll just kind of look at the overall thing really quickly on the outside, then we'll kind of dive into other parts. The fingers, the 3-piece fingers all the way through, they did it before with this, but just these are like much better and nicer done overall because they don't force your finger closed like that. Remember, Bauer is only putting 2 on their ultrasonics because they say this one only needs to be 2 and not 3. And then on their Vapor, I think they went to 2 for a bunch too. Really weird how companies are going away from this, and True is still doing the right thing here. 3 pieces here means more breaks for more protection. I'll show you that when I close my hand on it. They really simpled out the backhand. As you can see, the number of foam breaks on here is considerably less than what's here. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and even then that's like minimal compared to, yeah. And then on the side as well, much more simple design all the way through. And honestly, everything I've been able to see so far has been like useful. Now, and they did a really smart job here where this is only 2 and it used to be 7. And the way that this is breaks though, it actually does work when it's on your hand and it breaks correctly. So I'll show that off. The cuff is actually pretty interesting because of this logo. So hopefully it kind of shows off. It's like I think it's plastic, but it looks like it's like a metallic material. So I'm pretty sure that's just like the coating on it or something, or like a sticker, but it looks kind of plastic. Now, this actually looks cool and it kind of feels cool. I don't know how well that's going to stick on because it's obviously glued on there, not sewn on. I love this. I love when companies just do stitched embroidered cuffs. It's simple. It's what all the pros have. The pros aren't going to have this. They're going to have embroidered. I get why companies are doing this to kind of like make them stand out and look flashy. Bauer does it too with like stuff like this. These are just like nicer, but relatively speaking, that's a pretty big nitpick. So it's kind of fine. Materials are an interesting choice of different nylons. So you can see how it's like a more traditional nylon there. You have it's a slightly different nylon here. And then you have your TPU like material up here. I don't know if that's for wear or just for the cuff to slide over, because the cuff does do a good job to slide over there. Also up here, you can see that TPU. But then the other weird thing is this stuff is like a 3D. So you can kind of see it's like a 3D plastic kind of like printed on it. Hopefully that kind of comes off. And it's on the fingers as well, as you can see. So that's kind of interesting that they do stuff like that instead of just doing the screen printing or different materials. It's seen on other retail gloves. It's not really seen ever in the pro lines. Usually it's just the different nylons. It's fine. The materials on this feel really good and everything. And they also added the little separators for the backhand for just a little bit extra protection and to push the foams a little bit further apart. And just so they break a little bit nicer. And then this really tiny piece, I'm going to cover that again and again because I'm actually not angry that this is there. Originally, I was surprised at this, but we'll come back to that. Outside finger protection is pretty solid. You have a foam. There's no plastic insert, but it is a hard foam. In it, there is a plastic insert on this one. So that's kind of like what Bauer has been doing, is removing plastic inserts on a bunch of stuff. This one is a pretty solid foam piece right there, so I'm not too disappointed in that. It works pretty well. On the other side as well, same thing. You actually have this little tiny one too, which is above and beyond what most companies do, so huge props there. They had it on the old one there as well. And you do have that more dense foam right here. Again, dense foam with plastic inserts all the way through. So for the thumb, it really does feel like a two-piece thumb. And when you move it normally, you can see it, like it doesn't really feel like it moves a ton, especially from here, but you can see the movement there. With that said, True calls this their three-piece thumb. So they have these little booklets that I called out in the past, and they say it's a three-piece thumb, and it's supposed to have like a hinge right here too. And as you can see, it moves ever so slightly, but not a lot. Now, if I took you can definitely see if I take my thumb out how it moves, and it moves pretty decently overall. So I gotta give him credit for that. Bauer at one point was the only people with a real three-piece thumb. This one does move pretty decent, and hyperextension protection is okay. It's not the best. I can feel that digging into my wrist, which is kind of what it's supposed to do, so it doesn't move anymore. But it doesn't really stop all the way, so where that fixed thumb will definitely work a bit better for that. It's a decent thumb and it moves pretty good. I would have no complaints with that at all. So keeping on the outside and backhand and everything on here, the foam package on this is kind of interesting. So in the past, True always said that their retail gloves, the top line was the Pro Stock model, same foams. I have to see a Pro Stock one of this. So you have a soft foam at the bottom, and you have a slightly denser foam at the top, and you have the plastic insert. The problem is that that slightly denser foam is it's so minimal compared to what the bottom one is. I can barely tell if it's actually two pieces or not. Just the plastic insert at the top kind of gets in the way when you try to test it or like feel it. But it does feel fine in my protection tests everywhere on here and like on the actual brakes itself. So that's really good. But it's not what this was, which was their Pro Stock. So this one again had that soft foam, crazy dense foam right here, and then plastic insert. Not the same that's on these. And I think if you look closely too, it is slightly smaller in terms of height. So you have a little bit less foam there. It's very minimal, and these are a tapered finger thing. I guess the best look would be to put them side by side, and you can see the height difference right there. So you don't have quite as tall as foam package what you used to have on the older gloves, but honestly, this is a solid trade-off if you can get rid of that sloppy feel from these. This one is pretty good for that, so I want to give them a ton of credit. The next protection part thing is this cuff. I've gone on over and over about companies that use spandex basically, or like stretchy materials behind the cuff being lack of protection in the cuff. Well, this is one of the best retail cuffs I've used in a while. It's pretty impressive. Now, even though there is that gap, you can see how this inner cuff goes in pretty deep there. And it does allow it to flex a little bit, but it goes in deep enough that most of this is not transferring into like your hand. There is that extra padding, and the cuff itself is pretty solid foam. It's really hard to bend there, and I don't think there's a plastic insert, but overall, it does a pretty good job of protection. I can feel that. You're always going to feel that, but it's a lot better than some other recent retail gloves I've tried where you just feel everything. So pretty decent job for True there too. You can see how open this can be. It's not crazy. It is flared a little bit, but it's not like a crazy flare on there. And like I mentioned a bit earlier with that part, the cuff does roll over it pretty decently, as you can see. And it does kind of allow that stretching on your wrist and everything like that pretty well, pretty good as well. So no issues at all with that. Next, we get to the undercuff, which is just segmented foams right here, and it isn't connected on one side, which is honestly a good thing because it does flex out pretty decent. So there's not a ton of interference. You can definitely feel it there and it like gets stuck, but it's not bad at all. And worst case, you could cut that if you really want to, but that's not bad. And that's actually pretty good, especially compared to, again, some of the other gloves that I have looked at recently. This one is pretty good for that. The liner of this is honestly nothing special. It's like this gray liner, which isn't a bad thing. A lot of pro stock gloves you'll see kind of just have more traditional style liners like this without the patterns. I still think it's kind of a downgrade from what this blue liner was. It was softer. It's a bit more slippery with that said, but this doesn't say it's treated with anything, but without me actually testing it and seeing if these start smelling really bad, I can't comment on it, but it's fine, I guess, for the most part. Nothing special in there. It comes out, there it is, and the thickness of it. Some soft foam in there, but nothing crazy. Just a quick look at the inside of the glove itself. And now we move on to one of my favorite parts of this glove, and that is the AX Suede palm and kind of this overall design. So as you can see, AX Suede right there. Bauer used to use this in the past, and then they stopped using it. And then a bunch of other companies like SCX have been using it. AX Suede is super comfortable. It's a really nice, like almost Nash-like material. So this is a dual layer palm. It has the main hand piece, thumb piece right here. And then it does have that extra layer of the palm right there as well. Just so a little bit extra kind of durability and stuff. Really super soft, crazy soft material. I really like it. Has some interesting designs through it, like stamped into the AX Suede, which honestly isn't needed at all, but it's fine. It looks fine. It doesn't affect grip or anything. And the fingers and everything are really nice. Now, the other part about this palm, besides this being awesome and like basically a pro level palm, minus the weird graphics and the one extra layer, gussets are amazing. So as you can see, they are spandex, so you can see my finger, and AX Suede fingertips. So your fingertips can't blast through the ends like that. It kind of holds them in place. If this was spandex, it can really just blast past the foam. With this being the non-flexible AX Suede, it kind of holds them in place and is a very pro option glove right there. Just like this one, where it has that, this was just Nash, or if it was AX Suede, it wasn't labeled, but it was Nash like that. The one thing is that this is a lot shorter than a lot of the pro stocks I've seen. So usually the pro stock ones have the Nash like back here. That way there's a lot less flex. With this, I think it might be a little too flexy because you can still kind of push your finger past, but it won't go far. And once you relax your hand on it, the fingers kind of pull back, and it's really good, to be honest. It's really good for that. So huge props for that. So I haven't done this in the past, but I think it's actually kind of important to talk about how gloves grip and stuff like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go with Bauer sticks specifically for the best grip, because they are the best grip on the retail market in terms of how their grips are actually made and how thick they are and consistent it is. So grippiness with these AX palms, grips pretty well, slides like enough, and it doesn't really get stuck in your hand or anything, and feels fine. And it honestly, like, super comfortable palm, and it works well with a stick like this. So zero issues, and I'm a fan of it a lot. These palms, they're solid. Now for dexterity in this glove, it's really good. So the brakes work really well, and actually like flexing it with your hand, and you can see how they move very well like that. And you don't need this many brakes to do that. This one kind of shows it off really well, and there's no like gaps either. You can see it does move with your hand really well, and there's no real gaps in protection. That piece, again, these little tiny white pieces are kind of giving you a little bit more protection just by not allowing that one, like a gap to open up here. And I mentioned how this little tiny piece actually does something. When you do this, so when you touch pinky to index finger, which is a good test on gloves to see how they feel, you can see it does actually move separate of this. So with this here, it would be a little bit more restrictive if this was all one piece, but it does move with it, and is a solid design to just allow that little bit extra movement on that pinky and allowing a little bit more mobility. 3-piece fingers are excellent. As you can see, coverage is solid. You can't even like touch your fingers because that 3-piece design, and they're close enough so they're not open. Little bit of gaps here, but I can't even feel it on my actual fingers going through it. And chances of a stick getting anywhere in there is super slim because of the design and everything. Only thing you'd ever really do is a blade, and that's gonna happen on anything, so it's no difference at all. I can't do actual protection tests with like sticks or with pucks or anything, but I can bash it with my hand because you can do that in stores. These aren't mine, they're going back. So with that said, protection up here is solid, here is solid, here is solid, here is generally solid. So there's one point on here where there's an issue, and this is the only reason my nitpick of this glove, well, it's not even nitpick, but it should be fixed. So if your hand is totally flat on this thumb, so if your thumb follows all the way here, you're fine, you get hit, and it's not a big issue. And now if your hand is bent upwards like this, so basically your hand's coming out like this, so if you're reaching a little bit and you can feel right here, right into basically this part of your hand. And this happened before. This is what I called Suede out for, and that jams in right there. Now we take a look at this and you can see that one kind of sharp angle you can see right in there. This is hard because it's a black glove. That is a plastic thumb, basically the plastic mold basically that goes around your thumb, and that edge goes right into here, and you can kind of see the marks on my hands from like just hitting and everything, but it feels like it goes right in there. It's super uncomfortable and not very nice, and it's honestly, it feels like it is the piece that does this. It is actually the piece because I can feel the two separate. So this hinge is basically causing a piece to stick out, a plastic piece to stick out, which is sticking into your hand. It's kind of disappointing. This hinge isn't really important, to be honest. If I was a pro in getting this glove, I would order it without the hinge, and I would just get a stock thumb. This one's stock, something like, even like this will be better because it doesn't have that one extra hinge. But I would just order a fixed thumb to get rid of that piece of plastic in there, because you either have to shave that down in the molding process and get rid of that, or put a massive amount of foam in here so the foam deadens it, but it needs to be a stiffer foam than like what this is, so it has to be more dense, which would be heavier and might just not work with the glove fit. But that definitely, like that seam right there, and I'm trying to feel if there's another one deeper in there. You can't really feel the one here at all because it feels like it's like too far over here on your thumb, but this one goes right into right here. And it's pretty disappointing because if you get slashed there or puck there, it's gonna hurt. And maybe it's like a hard thing and might not, it'll be like unlucky if it gets hit there, but you're gonna feel it and it's gonna hurt, and that's kind of disappointing. If you're in Canada and you're looking to buy hockey equipment anyways, check out the links in the description to Hockey Supremacy. Clicking that link, making a purchase gives me a kickback. That way I help support the channel and I keep making real reviews and making more content. For the fit of this glove, with me putting my hands in, my hands do come like here and they touch the ends and they feel like they're coming out a little bit. But once you actually wear it, it relaxes, and I wouldn't go bigger than this. This is a 14, just like I'm testing for everything. So we'll do the hand test. We'll put my hand equivalent basically in here. We'll put the 14 in the left and we'll look at how big they are. Here is the 15 hand, or the bigger hand, the one that's based off mine. And when it's in there, it's right on the tip, but you can see it's not like blowing past, and it's like right there, and it's kind of where it should be. This one's a little long, but when I wear it, it's fine. This is basically right on the end. So this, to me, feels a little bit bigger than a normal 15 retail. Like just, and again, this is for comparison. I wore 15 Warrior Coverts, I wore 15 Bauer everything but Nexus, and I wore 15 CCM everything retail, but they're 4 rolls, their newest 4-roll 2s. So this is, I would definitely go with a little bit bigger than an actual 14. When we look at the 14 hand and the smaller hand, which is here, you can see you do have that gap of fingers right there, as you can see, and you can push it in a bit. So it's not at the edge at all, and you do have a little bit of room with that smaller hand, but with the 15, it's right on the end, but it's not blowing past it. Remember, a blowing past would be something like that, and it's not, it's just, it rests right there. And so again, I would say these would fit pretty close to a 15 and they're 14, at least in my kind of testing and scaling and everything with all other companies. And like I said, once you wear it, it really relaxes a lot. And so my hands aren't blowing by it at all when I'm wearing it. It feels pretty good. And to show how loose this glove is, it's not super snug. It's not super loose either. It's more of a vapor looseness in terms of compared to like a Supreme, I would say. So that's about it for the True Catalyst 9X gloves. These are a $240 glove. They're so top price point. They are such a huge improvement from what True used to be doing from their gloves. And even like usually Pro Stock gloves are great. This is a Pro Stock glove, is trash. These are awesome gloves. Foam package, which feels pretty good from protection and everything. The good cuff protection, like the pretty open cuff and flexible cuff, the great dexterity, the excellent palm, the excellent features and like options right here for the spandex and the Nash or AX Suede in this. Everything on here is really good and really impressive. My only complaint is that thumb piece for padding. I also put this on my producer, put her hand in it and went, how's that feel? And she wasn't too thrilled about it. So awesome, awesome glove. So close to being perfect. This is one of the best retail gloves on the market right now. Definitely give it a look at. That one thumb piece is the only little issue. AX Suede is amazing. The specs with the spandex gussets are amazing. Protection solid. Very good glove all around. True has done an excellent job here. Huge props to them. Yeah, so that's about it for this video. If you end up buying True gloves because of this video, it would be greatly, greatly appreciated if you reach out to them on social media and let them know. True has a huge social media presence and like ambassadors and stuff. I'm not one of them, but it would be nice to let them know if I point out when they make really good products, because companies deserve to be like acknowledged when they make a good glove, which is this, and I totally recommend it. It's a solid glove. Definitely check it out. So thank you very much for watching this video. Hopefully it was helpful. If you want to support the channel and live in the United States or Canada, check out the links in the description to Hockey Supremacy and Pure Hockey. In Canada, clicking the link to Hockey Supremacy and making a purchase gives me a kickback. In the US, clicking the link to Pure Hockey and making a purchase gives me a kickback as well. Everything through those links comes right back into the channel, so I keep making real reviews and more content. Otherwise, check out the links to Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee. Everything through there comes right back in the channel, so I can make more content and making more real reviews. Thank you very much for watching, and take it easy.
You're watching HockeyReviews.ca.